Good afternoon. Just going to walk you through my game project called the Metropolis. So this is the tank game for the assignment. So first step, we have the steps and modeling techniques. So I used a technique that involved me drawing the line, applying a loft modifier to the actual line itself to be able to create some sort of a shape to it, which you can see down here in the bottom left corner. So I drawn out the shape using the line tool. And then applied that shape to the line to be able to generate a shape that created a road shape. So I did it like a straight line with curves on the edges, so you can actually see a distinguished curve. And then went on to apply an unwrap UVW, which then allowed me to apply a texture to the road, which is how it ended up looking like on the right hand side here. I think it worked out really well. I then used this exact same technique as the train track that goes around the city, but I'll show you that in a later slide, I believe. So next up we have the would help if I didn't have that one. Next up we have the blimp and the train. I wanted to showcase these two because they were more complex shapes that I had made. Now neither of them are textured because I couldn't get the textures working on them because they were more complex shapes. However, I just wanted to point out with the train, I had used the Boolean subtract shapes function to be able to take away pieces of the actual main body of the shape by subtracting a shape that I'd put into the side of it. I had also used the I think it was the emboss tool or whatever it was to be able to change the faces by changing the by selecting the different I think it was the edges that I chose rather than the point selectors, and then made an indentation on the front because I thought it was quite a cool shape. Now I did exactly the same sort of thing with the blimp, so I changed the transform by stretching it with the different scale coordinates. I had merged all of the different items that were as part of the blimp using the Boolean addition, attract merge. I think it was merge, a Boolean merge, to be able to make it one object like that. So I was really impressed. I was really happy with my blimp shape. I didn't get around to putting much love towards the train, but I had good intention. Okay, next up, let's quickly look at the tank as well. So the tank was initially made. This is my first thing that I made. However, I went back afterwards and I remade the track. So originally I did have just a distorted, like scaled on the x-axis, I think it was. So it was like stretched as a cylinder, just as a placeholder. And then I went back and I actually applied the tracks, which aren't perfect, but it does show that I have animated the several different tracks. Now I use numerous techniques and tools to create my tank model. For texturing, I created my own basic texture map in Photoshop in order to fit the main body of the tank. So the main body of the tank was this section here. Because what I found was if I just applied the image as a still without changing each side of it, then the sides of the actual shape didn't line up properly. It didn't quite fit right. So I thought that this would be a good example of applying the texture map to it. And then, as I said, the tracks, I had actually applied a line drawing around in this shape, and then I had allocated a shape that I had pre-made as like a repetitive shape, like a little puzzle piece that would all interlock into the next one, so that when it moves, it looks like it's actually part of a track piece. Next up, we've got other models and techniques that I tried to attempt. Well, I had successfully attempted. So I'll mention the wheels first. So I used several techniques for doing the wheels. Again, it was using a Boolean subtract. I had distorted and I had used different scaling techniques to be able to change the actual shape of it. And then I copy pasted and rotated them and applied I think it was a sphere to the center of it, so it just to add in a little bit of extra detail. I think that the wheel came out really nice, actually. I know tanks don't actually have alloys, but I wanted to have an excuse to make something look a little bit more intricate like that. Again, I did try and attempt using the particle generator function thing. I don't know, can't remember what it was called. So basically, it's It's a sphere object that generates particles from a certain point using this simulation. So it'd simulate out using different settings, etc., etc., to be able to generate the particles going down. Now, my idea was to have a fountain in the center of the city as like a center focal point that would be like, oh, cool, wow, like a center point of the city, so the player knows how to navigate themselves around the city, and that's where it is. If it was much more of a larger scale, say. Sadly, it took absolutely forever for it to actually generate these particles. I had to leave my PC on and go on and do something else because it was taking that long to be able to do it. But it didn't actually convert off into Unity when I moved it across. I was expecting it to like complete the simulation, and then when I moved it across into Unity that it would have some sort of a generated water effect, but it didn't actually have any sort of particle effects. However, that was my intention. I wanted to make it into a water fountain, but instead you'll see when I show you my Unity in a second, you'll see that I actually turned it into like a light source in the center, so it actually had some sort of a use. And then we move on to the actual rail track, like I mentioned just now. So I use exactly the same technique that I used with the roads. So it's a straight line, but this time I drew a circle. Now, the issue I faced was it took me a little while to be able to figure out how to do this. But when you actually generate the loft to apply the shape, it goes into this circle shape that is horizontal. So it's like a giant cylinder. However, that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted a flat track. So to be able to do this, I had to go into the settings that was on the right hand side. I can show you again in a second. And I went and I clicked on the twist. I think it's called twist deformation setting. So it opens up this graph here. So you can select the 2 points, and then you can adjust them to be able to twist the actual thing. And it worked perfectly. As you can see on the right hand side, it worked really, really well to go around the entirety of the city. And then going by that logic as well, I used another line tool to be able to take the track technique that was taught in the lectures, and I managed to attach the train and the blimp to two separate tracks, two separate lines, and I animated them as well so they would move around the city as well. So I will show them off in a second to better show you exactly what I mean by me adding them to the track and animating them. So we move on to the audio. I had sourced 3 pieces of audio from online. So the main background music was from it was like a 2-hour compilation video on YouTube. Now this one, I only like one of the pieces of music in it that I thought was that would have been quite fitting for a background music. So I took it into Audacity and I cut it down into the one piece of music, track of music I actually wanted, and then I exported that and I've put that into the background, which plays on loop using an audio source with an audio listener as well, so that you can hear it continuously looping in the background of the game. I've also got track sound effects, which sound like this. That will play continuously as the player's going along. Now if I actually finalised and got it all worked out, the kinks, and I had a bit more time, I would do it so that the track sound would only play whilst the character is moving, whilst the player is moving. However, at the moment it does play for the duration of time. And also I haven't actually implemented this into the game, but I have got another source, which was the cannon fire. So that would play whenever, obviously, the player shoots their cannon at an enemy. Not on loop, it would be an instant sound. When a button is clicked, then play the sound. So the actual theme of the game is like a futuristic-y sort of cyberpunk kind of feel game. So I thought that more of a futuristic sort of synthwave piece of music would fit in a lot nicer with the theme of the game than what another type of music would be. So I decided to go with a music that's like this. You'll hear it again in a second when we play the game through. And I thought it was really good. I thought it was a really nice piece of music that fit in quite techno-y sort of. Now, next up with the audio, I decided to get a little bit more creative with the sound effects. So during my practicing modeling phase, I had modeled a pig. Now, I created it during one of the workshops, I think, and I decided that I wanted to try and get a little bit more creative with it. So I had got my fiance to record a pig sound effect for me, which is really funny. And I had applied exactly the same thing with an audio listener, audio source to this pig in my level, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner. And then you can change the parameter of where that's going to be heard by using a linear audio listener, I think, off the top of my head. So that you get, and a linear roll off. There we go. I've just realized that I've written in the text. So you can change the minimum and maximum distance for the audio listener. So that gives the effect that when you're not near the pig, you can't hear it. But when you come near the pig, you can hear it, which would be really cool. So coming up to the final two slides, the gameplay and progression. The Metropolis is a run and gun style horde killing game with the goal of accumulating as many points as possible. Enemies will continue to spawn from pre-designated parts of the map and will continue to do so until the player has either died or accumulated enough points to progress to the next level. Through the game, the player will kill special enemy units that drop either additional points or power-ups that will help the player get their goal, their score goal. Additional levels would feature, to increase the difficulty, new road layouts that would vary the combat opportunities for the player, a larger map size, which would increase the enemy spawn points. So if you've got a smaller map, you'd only have 4 points, which is what we have at the moment. And then with a larger map, say you would have like 6, 7, 8 spawn points. Additional enemy types with varying damage outputs and health levels, some more like boss enemies that would drop unique power-ups and stuff like that. So, going by that logic, this is the current map's sort of top-down level map, I think it was called. So this is what the layout of the roads would be. This is what the structure of the buildings and all this would look like. And then my next map concept would have additional mechanics, features, the standalone points that would make it differ from the previous map. So I've done a basic drawing here. So we've got a big roundabout here with these normal roads that would all interconnect with buildings going around the edges. And then this light grey line, I drew it as a form of like a bridge. So if you had some sort of elevation that would overlook the other roads, you'd be able to shoot the other enemies as they're going across the other roads or as they come towards you. Or even be able to have the chance to be able to drive off the road and land on the road below to be able to, involve different opportunities for combat as you're going through the game. Additionally, we've got these blue spots that I've put on here to say we can have some sort of a jump pad that would be able to get the character across a long distance of the map, just to quickly move them through the map. So to again open up different opportunities for, so like if you were playing a Call of Duty game and you were playing Call of Duty Zombies, you'd want to be able to kite the zombies, lead them across the map in a different way, and this would open up a different opportunity for the player to do that. So let's quickly jump into 3ds Max. I want to show you just quickly what the actual level looks like in 3ds with everything all modeled. So this was the particle generation here, without the orb that I'd positioned in, and this is what generated the particles, and it was meant to go in and land in here. Now I did have a kill box that prevented the particles from going anywhere but within, I think I might have, oh no, there it is, there's the kill plane right there. So it's transparent kill plane that would stop the particles from going anywhere outside of this area. What I found was during the simulation it actually went out onto the roads, and that wasn't what I wanted, because otherwise it's going to cause issues when the actual gameplay happens. So I wanted it to stay within the confines of here, so that as soon as they touched the kill plane they would get despawned or deleted. And in the actual Unity view, this is the game. This is how it ended up turning out. It's not perfect, it's not 100% implemented, but this is what the actual game looks like. I've got a really cool skybox to make it feel like a nighttime sort of cyberpunk sort of feel. I've also added these lights going down the edges of some of the buildings as well, just to showcase that I can play around with some lighting to try and brighten it up. It is quite a dark game, but I wanted to use lighting effects to be able to bring out much more of a dynamic sort of feel with a contrast between the light and the dark. So let's have a quick little run around of the game. As you can see in person, it's all with a PlayStation controller. So then the music plays in the background, you're moving along as a tank. And you've got headlights as well, so you can shine a light on anything that you're looking at. Driving around the roads. I haven't got a shoot function enabled. I haven't managed to get a chance to be able to get that plugged in. This would be a spawn point for enemies, as well as 2 other points on the map. Now this here is the pig. Now the pig is the example of having a proximity audio effect that would be added in. So you can't hear the pig snorting now, but when you're getting close, you can hear the pig snorting. I think it's really cool, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So it's, as you get closer and closer to it, it gets a little bit louder. And then when you're outside of the perimeter of the pig, you can't hear it snorting anymore. It's not there for its purposes for the game. I just wanted to play around with the audio feature, which is really cool. I've got some of the lighting there as well, just to try and add a little bit of to make the world feel a little bit more alive. This is another spawn point for the enemies. I haven't got any other enemies programmed into the game yet because I haven't made the models, but they would spawn dynamically out of here. So yeah, I managed to use a lot of different materials throughout the game, so everything is textured independently. This is where I was talking about with the light. I've turned into a light source instead, using an emitter rather than it being a particle generator. But I've got lots of different, a lot of different models within the game. Now the blimp is animated in the game as well. I don't think I actually showed you, but you can actually see the blimp light flying around the map. There it is, look, the light going overhead. So if I show you in the scene view, you can actually see the blimp is animated to fly around the map. Since the conversion of the train and the blimp in 3ds Max didn't go very well. So that's moved over, so it moves around like that, and it's got a controllable light source that's going to go around and follow the player around as it's going around the map, which I think is really cool as well. I'm really happy with my game. I'd like to carry on going further with it, if I'm completely honest, because I've really enjoyed making it. It's a lot of work, but it's really good fun. I hope you enjoyed watching through my game demo, and thank you for watching.